All right, Chairman, thank you for joining us. I think everyone is very excited here to close out the summit with you. I think reflecting back a year ago, which I've heard a lot of people do, over the course of the last 2 days, I don't think anyone in this room a year ago could have possibly imagined the amount of progress that would have been made in such a short period of time. And I think even the most optimistic of us are very kind of just enthused by the amount of progress that you all have made. So thank you very much for that at the outset.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
So I guess let's start with Project Crypto. Can you start with why you launched Project Crypto this summer, and what were your goals, and where do you think we are?
Well, thanks for praising what we've done so far, but I couldn't do it without my colleagues, on the commission and in the staff of the SEC. So Hester Peirce has done a wonderful job, I think, of leading that. And even before I got to the commission, starting on Inauguration Day, she was able to swing into action and had a group, the task force, to start work. So they have, even by the time I got there in mid-April, they had already made a fair amount of progress, which was very encouraging. And so then we're able to drive that forward. And so I think you ain't seen nothing yet. So as far as next year, I think we'll be able to, all the seeds that we've planted, we'll be able to start seeing them sprouting as far as proposals coming out, and then we'll be able to harvest the fruit just like how we did as it goes forth to finalize our rulemaking.
Yeah, I think I speak for everyone in this room when I say that Hester is a treasure of the industry and she's always been an outstanding voice. A few weeks ago, you gave a great speech at the Philadelphia Fed's annual FinTech conference that built on the Project Crypto announcement. Again, another kind of seminal speech. Can you explain how you arrived at the token taxonomy that you kind of laid out there, and specifically why the Commission is focusing on kind of digital commodities or network tokens?
Well, so I guess, we've been obviously thinking about this for a while, and a lot of people, not just at the SEC, but elsewhere have also. So what we were trying to do was divide things into goals divided into 3 parts. We chose 4 as far as crypto goes, and so digital commodities are 1, and digital collectibles, digital tools, and then finally tokenized securities. And so the first, these are not just firm and sound buckets just yet. I think we still have a lot of learning and discussion and commentary to take from people as we drive this forth, but it's at least a framework to focus on what we are going to be our rulemaking is going to be centering on. So obviously we're going to be working very closely with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. We have already been doing that since I've come aboard, and so I look forward to doing that when the new chairman comes aboard, hopefully here very soon. So I think we'll be able to partner very closely together, but we'll be focusing on tokenized securities, and there's a lot, of course, packed into that term, tokenized securities, like what's a security, so we'll be focusing on that. But the others, we're saying are clearly not securities, but still, there's probably, as innovation comes about, we're going to have to take that into account too, but suffice it to say that I really view very positively what our working relationship with the CFTC. I don't think there'll be any gaps between us, and there will not be, as long as I'm around, any turf battles like we've seen in decades past. So right now this is a really, really important inflection point for the marketplace, for digital assets, and I want to make sure that we are on a very firm ground, and I'm sure that my colleagues at the Commission, SEC, and then also the CFTC share that view.
Yeah, that was great. So just double clicking on the tokenized securities, I think during the last administration we never really even got into that area because it was all just focused on whether or not certain of these tokens were securities or not. Everyone is I think very excited about tokenized securities, sees a lot of the efficiencies that blockchains can provide in that area. How are you viewing your kind of role with respect to that? Do you think that the commission has sufficient authority to kind of modernize securities laws as it applies to tokenized securities and I think that is an area that is people are probably less familiar with, but it's an area of growing focus.
Yeah, well, so the way I look at the securities laws, Congress over the years has given us a lot of authority in each one of the securities acts with exemptive power and things like that, and so we intend to use it, and the Commission has used it over the years. It's just unfortunate that in more recent years, and particularly with digital assets, that the Commission chose not to do it, and I think that's time lost, but we're making it up quickly, and so I think as far as the rules, we have a lot of areas that we have to figure out how things are going to mesh. So obviously with Reg NMS and those sorts of rules regarding trading of securities, not all of them really make sense in a tokenized on-chain world. So we will have to make changes there. So everything that we're focusing on, even our taxonomy, with those 4 buckets, meshes with what Congress is talking about as far as the Market Structure Bill, the Clarity Act goes. And so I have really a lot of confidence that whatever comes out of Congress, that will bolster what we're doing, because after all, what is really important to me is that we future-proof what we're doing, so that whatever happens down the road, that we don't have kind of the pendulum swinging the other way and then having a lot of our efforts washed away. So we have to make sure that if ultimately we don't have a statutory foundation, that's fine. We can do it through rulemaking, but the real important point will be implementation and having all the other market participants kind of in that same mode. So I have confidence that we can get that done in the time that we have.
And when it comes to then tokenized securities, do you see there being a pathway to them being used in kind of innovative technologies like DeFi, or I know that there are some lobbying for walled garden approaches where kind of you take existing kind of TradFi schemes and put them on chain and kind of keep the tokenized securities within those.
Well, as far as, sort of private blockchains, walled gardens, whatever you want to call them, I think the whole ethos behind distributed ledger technology is interoperability and, freedom of movement. So that, I think, is, the central fundamental principle that we ought to uphold. So, but if you want to choose to have sort of a private blockchain, that's great, and there are probably really important use cases for that. So that's great, and God bless, vive la différence, I guess is ultimately the thing. So let people innovate. Let's figure out, let the market decide what it wants to do. And that's the way the SEC traditionally approached things, rather than being dirigiste to, force things into one particular bucket. So that's what I want to pick up on. I think that's the strength of our approach here in the United States. And if you look across the Atlantic, I think the Europeans are having second thoughts about their original approach, where they had a very strict taxonomy and and all of this, and so they're looking to change that. I've been, it's interesting traveling over there a couple times. I've been over there since I joined the commission to talk to people in various jurisdictions there. So I have, confidence that, we're proceeding on the right path. And then with Congress with us, obviously the White House and the other agencies of this administration, we're all in sync. And I think that's also an important strength of this particular administration, that especially in financial services, most of us have known each other for years, and it's really fun to be able to work with folks I've known for a long time, and that I know how they think and they know how I think. And so, I don't think there's a lot of daylight between us, and I think turfiness is not going to come about. And so God bless Jonathan Gould over at the controller's office. He has to deal with stable coins. I don't, so that's great. But in times past, maybe a former chairman or two might not have viewed it that way, but that's the way I do.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that your speech last week, where you talked about looking at the functional realities of the technology, was really helpful in kind of indicating what the approach is that you're going to take. And I think that's really welcome compared to the last administration. Moving on to capital raising, I think you've talked about in the Philadelphia speech looking at both economic reality and as well as explicit and unambiguous promises. How do you reconcile those when it comes to ICOs?
Well, so we have still a lot of work. I'm not going to, downplay that part to do. But, unlike in the past, the SEC was rather cagey about it. It's just like, well, you can read the rules as well as we can, so you figure it out. Well, I think that, we're in this together. That people in the industry know a lot more about the technology and their uses and obviously their strategy than we ever will know. And in fact, we're a bit on the other side of the coin where we can't really have practical experience using the tools and the products that people in the industry do because of our ethics issues around, we can't hold digital assets. And so, the most we can do is have demos. And so that puts us a little bit behind as far as learning goes, because obviously this area changes so much. And so, but anyway, but we're not to cry about that, but we just have to deal with it. So that's why it's so important for us to have good lines of communication with people, figure out what people are doing. It's good to have folks come in and talk to us, make presentations. So I think that's really important. So then, as far as capital raising goes on chain, that's one of the first use cases that of it with Bitcoin and whatnot ultimately. And so I think and then all the challenges under the Howey test and what is a security. So we've learned a lot from that, and the SEC of course probably lost more than it won clearly in court. And I think a number of the things that the various judges came out with I think helps inform us. And then with respect to what is an investment contract, the promises that are made and that sort of thing. And it's, in my view, as I've said over and over, it's not the token so much that is the security, but it's the investment contract that is in the ecosystem usually around the token. So we're going to be building off of that, and as we go forth, and we're going to be thinking about, we've been talking about an innovation exemption to have that allow people to do experimentation and to build their use cases and that sort of thing.
So you think that the innovation exemption then would probably provide a pathway for that type of fundraising activity?
Well, I think so. I think basically what we want to try to do is give the ultimate goal is give people certainty so that they know that they're not going to get a subpoena thrown down on their doorstep. As long as they're doing things, above board and, want to comply. Obviously, there are bad people in the world, and we won't. So we've already been showing that we're taking action against people who talk about having a crypto product, but in fact, it's just a fraud that they're perpetrating. So we won't stand for that. We will, we can't have the ne'er-do-wells, kind of spoiling it for everyone else. So anyway, but as far as, the goal is to have certainty around the rules so that people know, what they have to do in order to comply with our rules. And we're not going to be cagey about it. We're going to be straightforward and try to, give people guidance.
Yeah, that's great. I think, that brings to mind then just market structure legislation. I think you've been a very strong supporter of President Trump's agenda to get market structure legislation passed. I think some people view that there's kind of a tension there between, what Congress is doing, what the SEC is doing. How do you view that, and what do you think about the importance of getting market structure done?
No, I think, like I said, we've been supporting both houses, and both parties basically as they've been going through this process with technical assistance. Obviously we were part of the PWG report, which kind of is a wonderful, I think, statement of direction and how we should address this area and collaborate. And so I'm fully behind what's in the PWG report, and especially with respect to, this is not about turf. This is not about, having, I've like to say that the last thing we need, especially with respect to market structure as between the SEC and CFTC, is two fortresses with a no man's land in between, and then the cannons firing back and forth, and that's been the death of many products. Would-be products over the last 4 decades or so, and we cannot have that happen here. We need to have a collaborative approach. We need to have I would say fluidity, and so a super app is what I would love to see, where that would accommodate both jurisdictions there, commodities and futures, and the securities side as well, because there's so many market participants that have overlapping products and overlapping customers, and to have crazy quilt of rules with differing, which has prevented things like portfolio margining and things like that. We've got to have a collaborative approach, and we're both are kind of going in the same direction.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense, and I think that just the fact that the taxonomy itself has digital commodities in it, right, it seems to be an acknowledgement that there is that this whole industry doesn't just fall within the SEC's jurisdiction, and I think market structure can help kind of draw those lines pretty clearly, right? And I think with respect to market structure generally, I think anything that you've seen so far that you think is really helpful, or anything that you're particularly focused on that gets right in that bill.
Well, I think, again, just like the Genius Act, I think it's really important that Congress focus on this area. And again, I mean, there are things here and there, like they're more minor, that, we've been, making suggestions for changes to, just make it comport more with the history and with the specific aspects of the securities laws. But, be that as it may, I think it's, that the direction is great, and I think they'll get it right in the end. And, if not, I mean, if there are, who knows how the sausage is made and what comes out of it. We've all been through this before. But I'm confident that, well, A, that we can work things out with the CFTC and the other regulators for that matter. And then B, that, we have a broad exemptive authority again. And I think we can work to make things work and make everything, and if not, if there's something really that turns out to be a problem, we can go back to Congress, obviously.
Yeah, that's great. And, it's for all of the companies that are in the room here. I think, if you look back to the last administration, I don't think that any lawyer was advising their client to go in and talk to the SEC. I think that has totally changed now. I guess just from your perspective, how important do you think it is that industry does come in and talk to you guys about what they're working on and what they would like to see in terms of all this rulemaking that you guys are undertaking?
Well, I think it's vital. So please come in and talk to us. Our guys should be open, and if they're not, then let me know about that. But it's not a gotcha regime, and but again, we want to learn. We want to make sure that we're doing things correctly, and you can only do that. That's why we have notice and comment rulemaking. I mean, because we can cook things up internally, but we need people to talk to us about problems for implementation and things like that. And obviously we'll in some cases consider the source and whatever. You may be talking your own book, and so we're not naive in that way. But still, there are a lot of competitors out there, and you can balance one against the other. And you talk to enough people, and there's a common thread usually, to what comes forth. So it's a very productive, use of time. So please do. It's an open door.
That's great. Do you have any other messages to builders and to industry generally?
Well, I mean, again, we need and want your input. It's really important that we have it. And again, because on the practical side, we just, we don't have the luxury or the ability to, to experiment as much as, we would like to. So anyway, so that's why that's very important. And for you all to be active, on, here in Washington and make your voices heard. It's very valuable, and you've done a good job of that. And I know that the folks on the Hill, are very interested also to hear about, what you think the best way forward is. But again, I'd encourage you all to push for flexibility ultimately, because the last thing that we need is something like engraven in marble or in cement here that we cannot change in the future, and we just don't know what things are going to be like 5 or 10 years from now, and much less from 1934 to now. I mean, that's 90 years. So we need to keep that in mind. So to have the best rules, best statutes, set out a firm, principled foundation, and then let's build on that from a regulatory perspective. Rules are easy, much more easy to change, and so rather than statutes. And so let's just remember that and encourage the people on the Hill to do that.
All right. Well, that's a great note to end down. Thank you very much for joining us today. This was really great.
Well, thank you very much. Good luck. Thanks.